Right now, our data visualization is using the values within our dataset literally. So whatever the values are, they're being translated to the widths of the bars. We have a lot of area here that we could cover within the SVG element. What if we wanted to scale our data according to the available area? How would we do that? Let's go to the code. And what we would do is we would create scaling functions for both the X and Y axis. And here's how we do that. Just after the data, create a new line, type var x equals d3.scale.linear. And so we're creating a linear scale. And what that is, it's a function that allows us to input a domain, which is a range of values, and then output a range. And don't be confused by the two uses of the word there. A range is then the output values we want to scale to. What we'll do is first input the domain on a new line, .domain, open and close parentheses, and domain expects an array of the smallest and largest values, index 0 and 1. So create an array that's just square brackets 0. And for the maximum value, we want to grab the maximum value from the dataset. To do that, we'll type d3.max, open and close parentheses, and pass our dataset in as an argument. And that will basically comb through our dataset and pull the largest value, which happens to be 337. Now we'll create the range. We have the input values in domain, and we'll scale them to whatever the range is, .range, and we'll scale them to the width of the SVG element, which is the W variable. Okay, we'll type a semicolon to end that statement, and now let's handle the Y scaling. So var y equals d3.scale.linear, another linear scale, with the domain being from 0 to the total number of elements that we have, which we can grab through data.length. And we're scaling that to range, and that'll be from 0 to the height of the chart. Now, how do we implement this? We go into our code where we create the bars, and first let's handle the scaling of the bars, the width. We're going to pass the value for width into the X scaling function. Save that and refresh. And now we can see that the bars are scaled to the width of the chart. So now let's deal with scaling the height and the Y position. That's easy enough to do. We'll just pass the index into the Y scale function. And then for the height, we just grab the height of the first bar. So let's type function d comma I brackets return Y and use the parentheses, get the first element and subtract 1 from it. And basically that's taking that height and subtracting 1 so we have a small space between. Save that and refresh. And now we can see that the Y scale has been implemented. The bars take up the full height of the chart, and there's a small sliver between them, which is that -1. So you can use scales within D3 to take data and then scale it to some other set or the range. And it's pretty easily done. Here we've used linear scales. Later we'll look at using ordinal scales. But you don't have to perform any kind of fancy math or write any kind of functions to do this. D3 comes with it out of the box.